We're going to be taking a look in this video at character consistency and also upscaling. Two of the most popular or most important issues inside generative AI. Now, I'm going to be working inside of Scenario. You can use the link below to sign up. There's a free account and the service scales up to, whole kind of teams working together, creating all sorts of wonderful things. Now, the idea behind the platform is focused on gaming, but you can use it in a whole different range. You can use it in comic book creation, in graphic design. We're going to take a look at how to use probably the best technique for creating character consistency. Let me show you how it's done. Now, these are some of the images that I've just created, and this is using a character LoRa. This is using the training method. And to get ahead with this one, we go to if you've not used the platform before, you've got a home page, which is your safe space. You can come here to access anything inside your account. We're going to go to images, and inside of images, we want to generate images. Now, you'll find that the foundation models, which are Stable Diffusion 1.5 and SDXL, the platform models are a good place to start. So what I could do is to choose an SDXL LoRa. Now, I've got my reference image, and what we'll do is we can work with the influence at 0. We're not going to really be using the detail inside the image. And if we just generate using this particular LoRa, we'll see what kind of results it produces. Now, just hitting the render button, the generate button, that basically gives us an indication of the type of images that we would get from this particular model. You can then go a little bit further and you can actually prompt for exactly what you want to see inside the image. And I did that inside of Perplexity. This is an AI that you can use ChatGPT if you want to. I asked, give me a detailed generative AI prompt for a handsome European superhero wearing a superhero costume with cape. Now, one really useful thing about a Scenario is that when you hit the enter button, it will basically separate your prompt out into relevant bits. What I want to do is to add front view, back view, and side view. That helps it to understand what I want from the generation. Now, the reference image itself, I actually got from Adobe Stock. And Adobe Stock is simply the best website that I find for finding images where you've got a model posing, the same model posing in different ways. As you can see here, we actually can create images that look quite different in some ways from the original. So here we've got the superhero, and it's just literally taking the essence of the composition and not really leaving the detail. Now here we are, and you can see the images created here. They are from a different model. I used the Helen model, and I wasn't quite happy with the results that I was getting with the original one. Now, the one that I really like and the one that I want to work with is this guy here. But before we do that, I want to point out that I had to put in a negative prompt, which is for Superman, because it was giving me too much of a Superman vibe. And it's given us these sort of young looking characters, and we can just review the pose. Sometimes getting the right posture can be a little bit difficult for this AI. So you may have to do a few generations to get the results you want. So what we want to do is to take this guy, we'll upscale it and just make it look a little bit more photorealistic. Now, using the upscale feature is one of the magic aspects of this platform. We can upscale to 4, 8 times, and there are different options. What I want to do is to choose photographic. The guy looks like a 3D render. That's not a problem. You've got options there. We'll choose photographic. And what you can do is to choose one of 3 presets: precise, balanced, creative. And I'm going to choose creative because that sometimes is cool in the results that it produces. We're not going to keep this prompt, and we're going to choose a slightly more vague prompt. So detailed, ornate texture. When you use photographic, you'll find the creativity goes all the way down. I'm going to increase a little bit. You don't want to go above about 80 unless you really want a lot of creativity. We're going to hit upscale, and we'll see the results. Hopefully the results should be a little bit more detailed than the original one. Now, after the upscale, you can see we've got that sort of photorealistic look coming in. And that's the kind of thing to look for with an upscale. Does everything look exactly the way you would like it to? Now, the face is important because it shows the sort of photorealism coming through. Now, you can, if you want to generate more than one upscale to see which one is the best. But let me show you what I got in the previous round. So this was the original image that I worked on. There's a lot of androgyny going on there. This was from the upscale, and it's not something I disliked. I actually kind of liked that. I also really liked other aspects of the results that I got. There's a lot of texture. You see the kind of wrinkling there in the costume. You can see the detail in the costume. That was not there originally. That's something I had to prompt inside of the upscale. You can also see these things here, which kind of give off light in different generations, in different renders. And these things I prompted for in the upscale. So you can see the lifelike look, the texture, a lot comes from the upscale, not from the original render, but the upscale. So the upscale turns out to be an important part of actually deciding what your final result is going to look like. And by the way, this is the canvas inside of a scenario. It allows you to work with different, let's see if I can just switch some of these off. It allows you to chop things up into different components. Now you can do this inside of Photoshop as well, or GIMP, and that's going to be useful for the next bit that we're going to be working on. So I literally went ahead and just chopped it up into different little pieces, and those pieces were then used to create the model that we're going to train. Now, I created a model using the data that we were looking at, and you can see the images right at the beginning of the video to see what kind of results we got from that model. But I wanted to go back and look at the process in a little bit more finer detail, and I wanted to do this using an example with more poses. I thought I would get also a more consistent result if I had a very simple costume. So here we have a blouse, we have jeans, we have white sneakers. That is going to be very easy to caption, which is what we're going to be doing when we create the model. Now this image is already upscaled, so there's a lot of detail there, but I decided also to upscale some of the individual components that we cut out of the major document. Now, working with these very, very highly upscaled images most of the time was not a problem. I found that I could upscale an image and then I could upscale it again and get very high resolution material that I could use to train my model. Now head on over to the models, and if you hit plus, you'll be able to create a new model. We're going to be training, and now we need to start adding our images. Now the next bit actually tripped me up a couple of times. We need to add the images, and as soon as we've added them, and before we actually upload them, we need to make sure that the images are cropped. So the cropping process has to take place now at this point, and you get an option to crop images into the size, which is 1024 by 1024 that they need to be in order to do the training. So just scroll the wheel of your mouse, readjust everything, and then scroll down to the end of the page in order to hit the confirm button. Do this for any images that are not already cropped in the required square format. Scenario will automatically give your images captions, and I decided that I wanted to call the model Blonde Kalela, and that was going to be the name of the girl inside the image. And I decided to change every instance of where it said woman to Blonde Kalela, so I could always prompt for this particular name and bring up this particular image or this particular woman. In, well, we're going for character consistency, and this is the girl that I want, and this is the girl that I created, so I want to make sure I can call her up whenever I need her. Now, occasionally there are some errors in the captions, but for the most part, I would leave the captions as they are determined by the AI itself. That seems to produce good results. Having named the model, we can go ahead and choose subject, since this is going to be a character model. And then I would probably leave most of the settings exactly as they are. As long as the captions look good, you should be good to go for the training. Now we can save the model as a draft and then do the training a little bit later on. But the training itself will take a little bit of time, and you'll get an email once it's finished. And once the training begins, we get over to the model management area, where we have an overview. We can collect some images that are produced by the model, and we also have details of the model itself. Now, the details are going to be useful if we need to retrain at any point in time. And once our model is baked and ready, I like to create a few images just to test it and to see whether or not we're getting the kind of results that I want. This is no prompt, and this is after a few prompts, which, well, they give me an idea of what sort of character consistency we're getting. And oh, it looks pretty good. I like the outcome, and I think the testing, once you start testing it, you can get an idea pretty quickly of whether or not it's doing what you want it to do. Now, in the future, we can access the model, and it will be in the Your Models section, or the Your Models tab. We open it up, we can actually start pinning some images that we've created, and we can use these to sort of identify the model. Now, I've put her in a warehouse with a time machine because why not? And we can use some of the representative images. The character consistency with this one is amazing, and I did find that as long as you keep the costumes very simple, it's actually pretty easy to get very consistent characters. Use lots of images, use lots of postures, spend a bit of time deciding how you're going to populate all of these training images. And you can come back once again if you want to and retrain using the same data and maybe adding other data in future. But you know, this is just the beginning. Go ahead and click on Start Compositing, and this is where the real magic begins. We can start adding other models from the platform with our model, and we can create a composite model. Now, currently Scenario uses the term composite models and composite LoRAs. They seem to be more or less the same thing. I'm going to choose this Trista model here. We're going to add that to the composition, and you can add as many models as you want. Start off with a couple, and then you can either test the composition or you can actually save it. Now, this composite model is indeed a new model. So let's start over by generating some new images. And we can also use the prompt spark to create more complex prompts from a very basic introductory text. And that allows us to test the new model in a range of situations. Now, once you've tried a few mixes, a few compositions, you'll find that you can really check to see whether the model is maintaining the level of consistency that you want. Obviously, the more complex the compositions, the less likely you're going to hold the original image, but the more likely that the image is going to be free, flexible. You don't want to use that very original model that you created. It's going to be very inflexible, but once you combine it with other models, the results are quite magical sometimes. And of course, talking of magic, we want to use that upscaler to improve the quality of images that we're getting. This is really one of the big finds. I really think this is one of the key assets inside the scenario workflow. Now, as for that original model, I decided to mix and match it. I called it Andro-LoRA because of the androgynous aspect of it. I decided to mix and match with a whole bunch of different models, and the results we got were pretty instructive. With this particular mixture, I had flaming red hair, and I found that I needed to, much of the time I needed to put in a negative prompt for cape because it kept giving the girl a sort of Superman or superhero cape, which is not really part of what I wanted with the original design. Now, some mixtures gave a female looking character, some mixtures gave a male looking character, and this particular one really responded very strongly to whatever prompt you use. So all of these images, same model, just different prompting styles, and it gives the girl a beautiful kind of magenta bluish hair, which I thought was nice. And when you like a particular result, you can actually remove the background and composite it inside another image if you feel that you want to get that consistency. And of course, using the upscaler can be used to creatively change the image or just to remove imperfections or add detail.